Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call this meeting of the Bloomington City Council to order. It is Monday, September 20th, 21, excuse me. I've lost a year already. Let's start our meeting as we always do. If we could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, welcome everyone here and everyone watching at home. We have a fairly light agenda this evening, but we will get through it just as quickly as we can. First order of business, of course, is our roll call. Ms. Lane, if you could please call the roll of the council, noting that Councilmember Patrick Martin is not with us this evening. Oh, excuse me, Matt, I'm sorry. Matt, wow, I'm sorry, Matt, I usurped your council secretary role. My apologies. Mr. Brillhart.
Councilmember Beloga.
Present.
Carter.
Present.
Coulter.
Present.
Lohman.
Present.
Nelson.
Here.
And Bussey.
Here. 6 of the 7 Bloomington City Council members are present this evening. With that, we'll move on to item 3 on our agenda, the approval of the agenda. Council, any additions or subtractions for tonight's agenda? Any corrections? If not, I would move approval of tonight's agenda.
Second.
And a motion and a second by Councilmember Lohman to approve tonight's agenda. Hearing no further council discussion, Mr. Brillhart.
Beloga.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye.
Coulter.
Aye.
Lohman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
And Bussey.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. We have an agenda for tonight. Item 4 on our agenda is the public comment period. It is a 20-minute period at each council meeting where we allow individuals to come forward and address the council not on tonight's agenda. And we have 2 parts to the public comment period. Item 4.1, a response to the prior meeting's public comments, and 4.2, which is the public comment period itself. We will restart with the response to our prior meeting's public comments. Mr. Verbrugi.
Mr. Mayor and council members, no response to prior comments.
We do not have any responses on item 4.1. So we'll move on to item 4.2, which is the public comment period. As I said, it's a 20-minute period. We do limit individuals to 5 minutes to their comments, just to keep it fair for everyone involved. And it is not a back and forth. We don't interact. We'll answer basic questions, but it's an opportunity for the council to listen and take in information as opposed to get into a back and forth with residents about issues at hand. So the public comment period, we will open it now at 6:03, and we had one person call in ahead of time asking to speak. Sally Ness asked to speak. Ms. Ness, good evening. If you could sign in per usual, state your name and go ahead.
Thank you. Can I get the overhead? Thank you. The day after the 3 officers came to my door to inform me that they have an obligation to follow up on felony reports and that they don't just get general misdemeanor cases, because I spoke with 4 children after one said my first and last name, there was a planning commission hearing for a new conditional use permit that would allow an increase in the use of the 8201 property. Those who objected to the new conditional use permit were concerned about the city allowing an increase to an institutional use that is not adjacent to a collector or arterial as required, and to a building that is overused and non-compliant. Regardless that there were opposing sides, the few people who objected greeted some of the many who attended the hearing to request the increase in use, including, as I found out later, the person who called the police on me. The person who called the police on me was from the school, and we exchanged greetings at the Planning Commission meeting. Of course, while at the Planning Commission meeting, I did not know this was the person who called the police. I did not find that information out until later when I received the data. Again, I did not know it was someone from the school that called the police on me, and I continued to talk with the students when they approached me and the grandchildren. One day in October, while at the park, the grandchildren had been on the playground equipment, and then the students came out and it scared them. I took the grandchildren over to the swings. While at the swings, students were talking with me. Then the person who called the police on me came over to say hi. This person comments, seeing that I am enjoying the park. He said, this after I had calmed down the grandchild that was crying because he was stuck on the playground equipment with students running past him. I then said to this person that I knew they had called the police. This person said that the children were really scared. I said they knew me. They said my first and last name. This person replied that the children knew it was me because they saw me on the cameras. I told this person the reply did not make sense because the children said my name before I spoke to them and before they would have seen me on camera footage. To be clear, this person inaccurately said the children knew it was me because they saw me on the cameras when it was at the park that the 4 children approached me and one said my first and last name. I said to this person, "You know me," and this person replied that the school is required to report all concerns. I said, "You did not even come out to investigate." The person replied that they had to go to prayer. This person knows me, has seen students talk with me and play with the grandchildren, and this is the person who called the police. That is not right, and it is not right that the police wrote up a citation. Last week, I pointed out that the report inaccurately states harassing a group of juveniles by videotaping them at the park, and she believed Ness was recording them, and Ness had some sort of camera attached to her shirt, which she thought might be her phone. And as I clarified last week, I did not harass them or stalk them. I did not videotape them, and I did not and have not ever had a camera attached to my shirt. Again, I did not videotape them, but as noted by the person who called the police and the detective, 8201 Park has a video, which means that the park patrons are being recorded while at the park, which includes my grandchildren. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Ness. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at the public comment period this evening? Anyone in the chambers? I see no one coming forward. Ms. Lane and Zen, do we have anyone on the phone who wishes to speak to item 4.2?
No public comment at this time. You may continue.
No one on the phone wishing to speak. We have no one in the chambers coming forward. So, council, with that, I will close tonight's public comment period. And that's actually the last instance where we will need our operator. So, Zen, thank you for your time this evening, but we're going to be able to let you go quite early this evening. So thank you very much.
All right. You have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to item 5 on our agenda, our introductory items, and the first one is item 5.1, which is the International Day of Peace Proclamation, and I'm going to come down to the podium and issue that proclamation. So each year, the International Day of Peace is observed around the world on September 21st, and the United Nations General Assembly has declared this as a day devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace by observing 24 hours of nonviolence and ceasefire. And the theme for the 2021 International Day of Peace is Recovering Better for an Equitable and Sustainable World. So we have a proclamation, City of Bloomington Proclamation, the International Day of Peace, September 21st, 2021. Whereas the issue of peace embraces the deepest hopes of all peoples and remains humanity's guiding inspiration. And whereas in 1981, the United Nations proclaimed the International Day of Peace be devoted to commemorating and strengthening the ideals of peace both within and among all nations and peoples. And whereas while our communities and our world continue to see a rise of division and conflict, our city remains dedicated to peace, which affirms a vision of our world at peace and fosters cooperation between individuals, organizations, and nations. And whereas the year 2021 marks 14 years of Civic Plaza as a peace site, which represents our commitment to seek peace within ourselves and others, reach out and surface, protect the environment, respect diversity, foster inclusivity, and be responsible citizens of the world. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Tim Bussey, do hereby proclaim September 21st as the International Day of Peace. Sign this date, the 20th of September, 2021. And in recognition of this year's International Day of Peace, the Human Rights Commission will celebrate with an installation of a peace pole. It'll be just to the east of the Normandale Lake bandshell, and the pole was donated by a Bloomington resident. Short ceremony will be held at the site of the newly installed pole at 4:30 on Tuesday, September 21st. Everyone's invited to attend, so I hope to see you there. Thank you very much. That's our proclamation for today. Moving on to item 5.2 on our agenda, which is an update on ranked choice voting. And our city clerk, Christina Scipione, is here to give us an update. Good evening, welcome.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. I am excited to be providing this update on our ranked choice voting outreach efforts, our planning for November 2nd, and our plans for our tabulation rounds after Election Day. Before I begin, I wanted to provide just some background or reminder of kind of how we've come to this point here today. Last November, voters in Bloomington elected to pass, I should say, a ranked choice voting charter amendment that now allows us to use ranked choice voting, or requires us, I should say, to use ranked choice voting to elect our local officials, our mayor and city council members. In April of this year, the City Council approved the Ranked Choice Voting Ordinance, which provides the framework for how we manage ranked choice voting and how we administer it here in Bloomington. In the summer, city clerk staff and election judges spent a lot of time doing outreach and engagement for our community to make them aware of this change in what their ballot will look like and in this voting method. At the beginning of August, we held a ranked choice voting mock election so that voters could practice in a fun, unofficial way on using ranked choice voting and get their questions answered. In September, as required by City Code, I approved ranked choice voting administrative rules, which are consistent with the ordinance and really get into the nitty-gritty and the logistics of how we manage ranked choice voting and how we process those tabulation rounds. And on November 2nd, it's the big day. Ranked choice voting will be used for the first time here in Bloomington to elect our city council members. So to kind of recap our outreach efforts to date and our plans moving forward, throughout the month of July and early August, city clerk staff and election judges conducted 87 different outreach activities in Bloomington. Those ranged from handing out flyers at all of our election judges' national night out parties to hosting pop-up events at the splash pad on weekend afternoons, attending various neighborhood block parties, apartment block parties, park and rec events, farmers markets. If there was an event in Bloomington, we tried to get staff there in July to share information about ranked choice voting and to encourage folks to attend our mock election. That was kind of the culmination of our outreach efforts for the summer. We had 401 votes cast during our mock election, which was held, it kicked off July 31st during the farmers market, and then it was held open that whole following week until August 6th. And so we had 401 folks participate in that, and we also estimate that we spoke to about another 150 people who had questions regarding ranked choice voting, who we shared information with, went through what a ballot looks like, but chose not to actually participate in the mock election. We're continuing, moving forward, to coordinate with our communications division, our community outreach and engagement division, to provide additional video, newsletters updates, social media updates, utilize our community distribution lists that we have for things like apartment complexes, our block captains, really use everything that we have here at the city to communicate out to voters and ensure that they know their ballots are going to look different when they go to the polling place on November 2nd, and to ensure they feel comfortable filling out that ranked choice voting ballot. We're also continuing our efforts to provide translated materials so that that message is available to our entire community. Will you advance the slide, please? There we go. So what can we expect when we go to the polls on Election Day? And I'm going to back up for a minute and talk about all those who don't go to the polls but receive an absentee ballot in the mail. As you know, Hennepin County mails out absentee ballots on behalf of Bloomington to our voters, and we have provided them with ranked choice voting instructions that will be mailed out to every voter. It has information about how to complete the ranked choice voting ballot. It has information about common ballot marking mistakes. It has information about how we count those ballots on election night and in tabulation rounds. And then it also, very importantly, has contact information for city clerk staff here at the city. So if voters have questions, if they've made a mistake on their ballots, if they would like to go on our website to learn more information, they know exactly who to contact to get their ranked choice voting questions answered. We're just gearing up now to train all of our election judges who will be working on November 2nd. We are providing training for all of our judges, in-person training, so that they get all their questions answered about ranked choice voting, and they feel comfortable answering voters' questions regarding ranked choice voting, that they all have a consistent script, they all have consistent answers, and across our 32 polling places, our voters have the same experience when they're going to the polls, and if they need assistance marking their ballots or have questions about how ranked choice voting works. We also are providing those same written ranked choice voting instructions in all of our polling places. So if a voter would rather read something versus hearing it verbally, we have the ability to provide them with written instructions in the polls as well. Additionally, we are reminding all of our election judges that we do have interpreter services available at our polling locations. We're ensuring that our head judges are all trained on how to use that, and that our election judges know it's available and know that that's a resource we really encourage folks to use if it's helpful in facilitating the voting process for our residents. Can I get the next slide? So what happens at 8 p.m., that magic hour after the polls close? Just as happens in every year, first choice votes and results are going to be reported out on mnvotes.org. That's the Secretary of State's website. And so all those first choice results will be tabulated and reported out by precinct on election night. On election night, we will determine if there are any candidates that have met the 50% plus one threshold to be declared, if you will, or considered the winner of that race on election night. Any candidate that meets that threshold of 50% plus one of all votes cast, or any race where there is a candidate, I should say, where there's 50% or 50% plus one, does not require additional tabulation rounds. And just as a reminder, that all votes cast includes all votes in that race with a valid first choice ranking for a candidate, any ballot that has a blank first choice ranking, and any ballot that has an overvote. So you wouldn't just want to add up all of the votes for candidates. We need to look at the overvotes and undervotes, and then that is the number we use to divide in half, add one, and then that's the threshold for election night, for being considered elected on election night, if you will. Can I have you switch to the next one? So on election night, we will know which races require ranked choice voting tabulation. Those will be listed on the city's website so that members of the public can go on and can learn, okay, these are the races that the city will be doing additional tabulation rounds. And we plan on having those posted on election night once all of our results are in from all of our precincts and all of our absentee voting. Just a reminder, all results are unofficial until they are certified by the canvassing board, which I'm sure you're aware, but I always like to put that out there. Next slide, please. So ranked choice voting tabulation rounds will be held here at Bloomington Civic Plaza in the Black Box Theater. This year, we are using the hand count method for tabulation rounds. And the reason we are doing that is because we want to provide a very open and transparent process for all of our community members. And so folks can actually come and watch those ranked choice voting tabulation rounds and see how it works. Physically see us move the ballots, physically see us count the ballots, be able to see who's doing that work. And so for this year, to provide that level of transparency, we are using the hand count method for our ranked choice voting tabulation. Those tabulation rounds will begin at 9 a.m. on Thursday, November 4th. We need one day to get all of the absentee ballots back from the county, to organize all of our precinct supplies for returns to the county, and so Thursday after the election is when we will start those tabulation rounds. And those rounds will continue each day until approximately 5 p.m. We might go a little later or stop a little earlier depending on when we have a good spot for kind of pausing for the day. Tabulation rounds, if needed, they will be held on Saturday, November 6th. So we plan to tabulate Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're hopeful that based on volume, we'll be able to take Sunday, November 7th off and come back if we need to on Monday. But the administrative rules are written so that if our volume is such we need additional time, we can do tabulation on Sunday, November 7th. That would be posted on our website and at the tabulation center. If I determine that it's necessary, we tabulate on that Sunday. Next slide, please. So who's in this tabulation center, right? So the city clerk, myself, I'm responsible for the operations within that tabulation center. I have a deputy city clerk who can be responsible in my absence. And then that tabulation center is staffed also by election judges. We have teams of election judges that are doing the actual physical moving of the ballots and the counting of the ballots. And those election judges are subject to the same party balance requirements that exist in state statute for polling place operations and for handling voted ballots. And so it's my responsibility to ensure we have all of our election judges meeting that party balance requirement, and that as two judges of two different political parties are handling those ballots, they meet those requirements as well. Next slide. We will begin our tabulation rounds doing one race at a time. So the order that we have is council member district at large races, council member district races in numerical order, and then the council member at large race. So if District 3 requires a tabulation round, that would be the first one in this year. District 4 would be the next, and then the at large would be the final one that we would tabulate. After we conduct a round of tabulation, we will report those results by posting them in the tabulation center and reposting them on our website. So for those folks who aren't able to come to the fun tabulation center and watch it in person, they will still be able to follow along with that tabulation process and the round reporting by checking our website, and we will update as those rounds are completed. Next. As you know, the City Council serves as the canvassing board. So those results become official upon certification by the canvassing board. And then those elected candidates would take office on Monday, January 3rd of 2022. Next slide. I appreciate your time, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
And we appreciate the presentation and the information. Thank you so very much. Council questions. I've got a couple. And my first question, as you described the tabulation in the Black Box Theater, will that be live streamed at all, or is that just an in-person type of thing?
It is. Currently, we have plans for an in-person viewing of that tabulation center. Given the size of the room, it may be difficult to kind of live stream anything that has real meaning for folks, because it's, the tabulation is kind of spread out throughout that room.
Okay. And the second question, so as you did the mock election earlier this summer and talked to the number of people that you talked to at all the different events, what was the most common question you're hearing from residents regarding ranked choice voting?
Certainly. Well, the number one question is, do I have to complete all of these rankings? And so, of course, the answer is no, you can rank as many or as few candidates as you like. And so that was the biggest question that we had. And then we had folks asking questions about how they will be tabulated, after Election Day. And so we walked through that with voters and explained how they can watch that process on our website and, if they want to attend our tabulation center counting as well.
Sounds good. Thank you. Council questions? Councilmember Coulter.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick questions. I think it's been a while, obviously, since we've gone over the language, but this may even be better answered by the city attorney. But as far as if somebody gets 50% plus one, obviously there are no tabulation rounds that would be required. But theoretically, question I'm asking basically is if somebody gets 50% plus one, they're obviously very close to 50% minus one. Am I correct in understanding that there is no provision for a required recount in an instance like that? That if somebody gets literally, say, 50% plus one or whatever it is within a certain margin, there's no provision for any kind of recount in that regard?
Ms. Scipione?
Correct. So, Councilmember Coulter, the rules regarding elections and recounts still apply. And so what happens in that case is when you have a very small margin like that, the canvassing board would still certify that. And then there's a 7-day time frame where the unsuccessful candidate has the ability to request a recount. And when it's within that small of a margin, then it would be a publicly funded recount. And so then we would go through the recount process. But there isn't anything that triggers an automatic recount.
Thank you. I think I may not have phrased the question correctly. Let me try this again. So if, say, one candidate gets 50% plus one, and, one candidate gets 15%, one candidate gets another 15%. Let me make sure I'm doing my math right. And one candidate gets 20%, say, just for the sake of illustration. There is no, I mean, the recount, the state law language around recounts has to do with the margin between two candidates. Am I correct in understanding that, rather than the margin over a certain threshold? Does that make sense? Am I asking that in any kind of coherent way?
Yes,
Okay.
I understand the question.
Ms. Manderscheid.
Thank you. Mayor, members, if I understand the question, if it falls within the statutory threshold, there would be a recount.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, that is a good enough answer for me anyway.
No, and I think I understand your question, Councilmember Coulter. If one candidate gets 50% plus one and four other candidates combined get 50% minus one, but none of those four candidates are within that state mandated or
Yes.
So it is. So then it's no recount. It's one of the challengers must be within that margin of loss to be able to request a recount. But if it's one person is one vote over the threshold, 50% plus one, there is no necessarily recount provisions there.
It's my understanding, and confirm, that I don't believe there's ever any automatic recount.
No,
That is
There has to
understood.
be a
Understood.
request for
There it
it.
is.
And then the law kicks in as to who pays for it, based on the threshold difference.
So Mayor and Council, to kind of add to that, if a candidate did want to request a recount, they still can, even if they're outside of that threshold. It's just not publicly funded at that point unless the results change. And then at that point, it would be a publicly funded recount.
Yes, thank you. That answers my question. And then, again, just to clarify, absentee ballots obviously are as long as they're postmarked by Election Day, they are and are legal otherwise, they will be counted. But absentee ballots that have been received in advance of 8 p.m. on Election Day will be counted that night, correct?
Absentee ballots need to be either postmarked by Election Day or physically delivered by 3 p.m. on Election Day. So 8 p.m. is only the cutoff if it's the mail or a courier service or something like that. Otherwise, it would be I physically wanted to bring my absentee ballot here to Civic Plaza, that would be a 3 p.m. deadline.
Yes, thank you. And then, but those ballots will be counted on Election night, correct?
Correct.
Hopefully be waiting weeks and weeks and weeks like they have in some other places.
That's correct, Councilmember Coulter. The law actually allows the counting of accepted absentees starting at the close of business 7 days before the election. And so the vast majority of absentees that Hennepin County has received and accepted at that point will have already been processed by our tabulators. So it's not as though we're waiting until 8 p.m. to go through and process everything that's been received.
Perfect, thank you. And then the last comment I just want to make, I was playing at the park with my daughter and a group of, in July, and a group of parents and other kids, and there was Ms. Scipione talking to folks about ranked choice voting, and it was just really, I really appreciated the level of engagement and willingness to have the conversations that staff has demonstrated. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
It's fun.
Good. Council, additional questions? Council members Nelson or Beloga, any questions on your ends? No? Well, very good. I think I appreciate the efforts to this point. I know you have more to do, I know, and to make sure that people understand and are able to move forward with comfort and with knowledge as they go into the election booth this year, and confidence that it's going to happen. So thank you for your work so far, and thanks for the presentation and the update, and continue the good work.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5.3, which is our introduction of new employees, something we've gotten back to doing post-pandemic, now that we're all back together, meeting some new employees and getting a chance to introduce them to both the council and to the public here at our council meetings. Mr. Keel from Public Works, I see that you have brought two new city employees along with you this evening.
We have, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you noted, we have two employees we'd like to introduce this evening. I'll say relatively new employees since we haven't done this for so long. Some of these folks have been here for a few months already. Both of these employees are part of our maintenance division. That's the group that has streets and parks and et cetera. And so we'd like to invite both Kathy and Ben up. And maybe we'll start with Ben. Ben is a traffic technician in our maintenance group. He's been here since May, so for quite some time. Prior to coming to the city of Bloomington, he worked for a local equipment company. He grew up in Vermont, in southwest Vermont, so it's quite a distance from home, and enjoys working outside and spending time with his son. Our traffic group, they're the group that does like striping and sign maintenance, signal maintenance, and those types of work. And Ben is one of the people that keeps up all that type of infrastructure in the city. So, Ben?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just want to say thank you for letting me come aboard and giving me the opportunity, and plan to be here as long as you let me.
Well, welcome aboard. We're very glad to have you. And I always take note every summer when I see the handiwork of your group. I love to see the freshly painted lines on the streets. It's just, it's amazing how much it fades over the course of the year, and you don't notice it until you get the repainting done, and it looks fantastic. So, once again, thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And our second employee this evening is Kathy Eugster. She's an office support specialist in our maintenance group. So she is one of the people that kind of provide administrative support to the whole division, and is one of the first people that people talk to when they call our division. So when we have snowstorms or other types of natural disasters or general questions about mailboxes getting hit or those types of things, Kathy is the person that gets kind of those first calls and really sets the tone nicely, I think, with those residents. Kathy started with us in July of this year. Previous to that, she worked at the Minnesota Legislature in the Office of Revisers. She grew up in the East Metro area, currently lives in Minneapolis and has lived there for several decades. She has two sons that are both in college, and one is finishing their degree at Normandale this year. So kind of a Bloomington connection. Kathy?
Hello.
Good evening. Welcome.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you for letting me be here. I'm really enjoying my time here in Bloomington, and like Ben said, I hope that I retire from here. It's just been a great experience, and the people are just really wonderful to work with. And after this recent storm that we had, I have to say I'm just really proud to work in our office and department with all of the work that goes on. It's pretty impressive. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Thanks much. Well, welcome to both of you. Glad to have you on board. I'm sure we'll see you out and about in a variety of different places, but very happy to have you on board with the City of Bloomington. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Keel, you mentioned snowplow drivers hitting mailboxes. That never happens here.
I think it's happened once.
Once, okay. Yeah. Good to know. Thank you so very much. Moving on to item 6 on our agenda is our consent agenda. Councilmember Coulter, you have our consent business tonight.
I do indeed, Mayor. Thank you. We have not gotten any word from anyone with holds on the consent agenda. I'm going to put out one last call to folks here and folks watching at home. Not seeing anybody raise their hand virtually or otherwise, so I will assume that's a final decision, and we'll move the entirety of the consent agenda, items 6.1 through 6.5.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Coulter, a second by Councilmember Carter, to accept tonight's consent business. Hearing no further council discussion on this, Mr. Brillhart.
Beloga.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye.
Coulter.
Aye.
Lohman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Bussey.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. With that, we'll move on to item 7, and I mentioned earlier, this is a brief agenda tonight. We do not have any public hearings. We don't have any additional presentations. We don't have, frankly, anything else on the agenda this evening. We are to item 7, which is our City Council policy and issue update. Mr. Verbrugge.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and council members, it almost sounded like you were disappointed there, so I apologize if we've disappointed you. We actually did have items scheduled, but for various reasons, they weren't quite ready for prime time. So every now and then, it's okay if we don't have a meeting that goes until 11 o'clock. I hope you feel the same. One thing I just wanted to highlight, and I appreciate others up here for reminding me of this, we have River Rendezvous this weekend. If folks are looking for something really fun to do to get out, we weren't able to do it last year, so we're happy that we're able to return to it again. River Rendezvous is one of the, I think, the more engaging living history events that people can participate, especially here in Bloomington. It's at the Gideon Pond Dakota Mission Park, and we have over 30 reenactors that will be there. And it's a chance for people to understand lifestyles of people living in Minnesota between 1800 and 1870, and they do that through storytelling and interactive hands-on demonstrations. So we're encouraging everybody to get out this weekend and check out River Rendezvous. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Verbrugge. Yeah, River Rendezvous, always an educational and interesting and fun time. So, and I think appreciated by folks. I think they need to get out more and actually see what they're missing, and I think they would appreciate it more. Council, anything additional to add at our policy and issue update? I hear no one coming forward. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Coulter, a second by Councilmember Lohman to adjourn this evening's meeting. No further council discussion. Mr. Brillard.
Beloga.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye.
Coulter.
Aye.
Lohman.
Aye.
Nelson. Bussey.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. We are adjourned. Thank you much for tuning in. Thanks for being here this evening. Thanks for your work tonight. Have a good night, everybody.
Night, folks.